Let me introduce myself and tell you a few things about what we're going to do in the short time that we have. This presentation will be up on my website. Hang on one second, excuse me. Oh, he's got it. drhowie.com. You'll see the link in here in a few minutes. I'm giving you the short version with about 60 slides, 70 slides. On the website will be the longer version. There's 140, so there's a lot more resources that are on there for you to use in the details. I'm Howie DiBlasi. I was a classroom teacher for 20 years. I left the classroom and then started a computer business. Did that for 10 years and sold it. Wanted to teach in a college. Found out something very important. You really don't get too many interviews unless you have those 3 letters after your name. So I went back to school, finished my doctorate in educational technology. Instead of a college, I ended up in Durango, Colorado as their chief information officer for 17 years. Retired 6 years ago, and now I travel around the country doing workshops for conferences, keynotes, presentations, but more importantly, work with a lot of school districts on changing the classroom. So I'm going to go through very quickly on what innovation, creativity, and some of these things are, but I want to show you a lot of practical things of how you can actually apply these in the classroom. When we're all done, I'll be hanging around for a few minutes for questions. If you need a card with a reference information on there, that will be on there. There's the links that are, okay, my slide's not advancing. Well, I may have to, they're still not advancing. No. Oh, sorry. Okay, I lied. I thought it'd be interesting for you to see some things that of a recent survey that was done about asking technology questions. For example, there we go. Question was, what is a motherboard? And the percentage of people that said, well, a motherboard happens to be, it's on the deck of a cruise ship. Then the next one that came about says, what is a gigabyte? And a gigabyte was really interesting because it said that 27% said it was an insect commonly found in South America. The best one was the last one that I thought because it asked the question about, I'm sorry, this is the second to the last, MP3. They thought that was a Star Wars robot. And then this was the best one that showed up on there. And it was, what is HTML? Most of us know that's a programming language, but people thought that was a sexually transmitted disease that was on there. So really strange, and I'm thinking, where are these people from? Who are they asking these questions about? So I'm going to go through, these are kind of the topics I'm going to cover very quickly. If you've been in my sessions, you know it's very rapid. I will show you lots of examples. And what I'd like you to do is take away 1 or 2 things this afternoon that you can take back and use Monday morning. So I'm going to just give you a couple of things that have to do with some entrepreneurs, but I want to start with this young man who's 5 years old. Luca is coming to your school in September. The amazing part about Luca is he loves Disney. He's a typical 5-year-old. He does all kinds of things with Minecraft, and it's amazing to watch this kid. And I have to slow him down to tell me what he's doing. Luca, show me how you're doing that. And he creates all these things in the characters and Minecraft and moves around, plays with his 10-year-old brother. These are all the things this young man can do at 4.5 years old. He can do every one of these things that he can count to 20. He writes his name. He knows colors. He actually can count to 30 right now. He plays Minecraft. He downloads files and videos from YouTube. He can find Darth Vader because that's his favorite character. And he knows how to show his mom how to use her smartphone. Luca is coming to your school. So my question is your school ready for Luca? So I want to give you some things this afternoon about how you can prepare to do innovation, creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, and so on that's on there. So here's a list of kind of the top entrepreneurs, and this is in the business and entertainment industry. I don't have time to go through all those, but it's a good project for your kids to do some research on who are these people. Because there's people on that list, like Jack Welch, your kids will have no clue who he is, what he even did with General Electric. Ted Turner, George Lucas they may know, James Cameron they probably don't. Here's the top, and by the way, all of my slides have links on there so you can see where the information came from. So there's the top 15 innovative companies. Those are the ones that you might want to go apply for a job, and in a few minutes I'm going to give you how unique and different it is now in applying for a job. It's not the standard interview that's actually happening. Whoops. So I want to show you some things that are happening. So how do we prepare our kids for a contact lens that you can wear that will read your sugar level if you're a diabetic? And that's a magnification of it. A Dutch company that implants sensors in the cows that tracks their health. The Magic Bands, if you've gone to Walt Disney World lately, everything is on there. And if you haven't seen it lately, they just announced about 2 weeks ago, your photos now appear on here, and a video of you on the attraction appears all to the Magic Band. You can print those things out. Augmented reality is going to change in the next couple of years. $200 million, Facebook bought this company, and they're really, really working on things for the education arena. Look at that and you go, what in the heck is that thing? They have been doing research on the way that flies see. And they've actually, if you look at that, that looks pretty big. But that's what the size of it actually is, and they've actually created a device that can see the same dimension areas that flies can see. I know that's a little strange, and the ladies, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but there actually is a product being developed called analytical undies. It takes all your vital signs. So when you're exercising, going through the day, it can send it to a device. It can go to the refrigerator and tell your smart refrigerator that you should not be eating that fudge at night, that you should be eating this or having something that's a little more healthy. Last one is so amazing. I saw a demonstration of this and I couldn't believe it. 3D printers today, now it's probably 5 years from actually happening, that can actually make a kidney. Think what that's going to do to, we don't have to anymore wait for a donor. And this gentleman, this Dr. Anthony, has actually developed that process and working with several other groups. So I was in Banff about 1.5 years ago doing a keynote feature presentation. And, whoops, sorry. And I walked into a store, and here was this shirt. And I thought, what I learned in school today. That is really cool, I thought. So I flipped it over, and you know what I saw on the back? I laughed, but it was sad, because that's what's happening in some of the schools. So what I want to do is go through what kids want to be, where they want to go, but let's talk a little bit and bring in the innovation piece. So this was a list that was done of kids when they grow up of what they want to be. Some of them are realistic. I don't know about, there's some things in there about a princess, the zookeeper. I thought they were very interesting of what all the kids wanted to do. So here's 2 people, young people, that said what they thought they would get paid. Now, one's thinking very low and one's thinking very high. $500 a year, and the other one's going to get $500,000 a year to be a superhero. So there was an article that was written, Tony Wagner did it, and he posted that, and I've used some material and credited him for it, but talking about the kids want to be the next Steve Jobs. So we're going to tie some of those things in here. When you see some of these, the link is in there that Tony did, so you can go see the full article. I pulled just some small bits and pieces out of it. The gist of the article was, if you want to be like Steve Jobs, here are 3 things you really need to do. And the one in number 2, I think, is the most important, to think different. And I want to have you leave today and say, I never thought of doing that, but I think I can try that and make that work. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you have to come back and do some reflections and change that again. So here's a couple of books that are out there. This is called Thinker Toys, and it's designed for business applications, but it allows you to use a lot of exercises in the classroom with your students and or for professional development. The Disney Imagineers have a series of books that are out there, and they released 2 about 1 year ago. The one in the upper right is the Imagineering way. Imagineers are the design people at Disney that come up with the attractions, come up with a storyline. And they've released these 2 books, and the bottom one is the workout. And they have 25 different Imagineers who have little 1-hour assignments that you can do, projects in the classroom, and you can weave them through any curriculum areas to do that. So this is going to be kind of our theme that I show you here in the next 35, 40 minutes as I go through each one of these. This also is from some of these slides I'm going to go through quickly because they're just reference slides. I want to get to the content and show you what some of these examples are that we can do in the classroom, and the links are all there for that. I'm going to refer to a lot about asking questions, asking lots of questions, doing inquiry-based learning, and show you examples. And here's an example of the question wall. And it's question time. A lot of schools and teachers are doing, putting those up there, asking questions, asking more questions as we go through each one of those. So to give you an idea of what it's like to go for a job interview, it's changing. The marketplace is changing. They don't do the standard. Now I'm talking about when you go to like those top 15 companies. Google. You want a job at Google? In order to get to Google, sometimes you have to get through the college piece. So here's the kind of questions that are appearing for students. Instead of writing an essay, they're posting questions like Wake Forest says, think of things that fascinated you when you were 10 years old. What has endured? Package arrives at your door. This is from Brown University. After seeing the contents, you know it's going to be the very best day of your life. What's inside the box, and how do you spend your day? These are not things you say yes or no on. You've really got to think about. This is helping them determine who gets this scholarship. One was simply saying, so where is Waldo? A student got a $50,000 scholarship by taking that idea and that concept at the college, flew in on his own nickel, did a scavenger hunt all around the university campus, had the people on the committee go around and do that scavenger hunt, and they said, this is our guy, here's $50,000. That is very innovative and creative when you do that kind of thing. So those are the kind of things that are going on. Question is, what are you doing to be innovative? I wish we had more time, and I'll be hanging around at the end. If you've got some things, I'd love to share them with other people and projects and things that they're doing. But what you are doing to be innovative. So let's see how good the video plays. I think he's going to run it from over there. Just click on it and see if that runs on the screen. Commercial. Very creative and innovative that Disney put together when they opened their reimagination of Star Tours. So the next item, and this is just very quick because there's a whole program and curriculum for entrepreneurship. If you're interested, this is kind of the question that how do we do this idea factory? How do we get kids to think different, do things that are creative? And Amy has put this together, and it's a whole class. I'm trying to remember the 60 to 90 hours. And her hypothesis is we need to be doing this in our schools. And I'm really kind of tired of hearing how terrible it is in the U.S. We're doing a really good job. But in order to do things like get thinkers like Steve Jobs and so on, a program like, and you can kind of slim this down if you want to. There is a small charge that's on there, and the links are on there if you're interested in doing that. So this is the piece that is really important that a lot of schools leave out, and that's that global connection. Because when those students leave school or from the college, there is going to be a global connection. Their team is going to connect somewhere. They may have to travel overseas. A lot of companies have offices overseas. So I'm just using this as an example. I've used this for years. I used it when I was in Durango at the school district there, and it allows you to make that global connection. What I really like about it is it's really simple. You can do it. Everything is outlined. It says on day 1, do this. Day 2, do this. Send an email out. Do a content. Connect to this. Here's the project. And all of the things are done and tied to all 50 state standards. They're in the process of connecting those all to Common Core. Now, it's going to be about another year before that piece is all done. But some of the ideas that are on here are the projects that you just go in there, you make a connection, and then you say, well, I'd like to connect with so-and-so. I'm a 5th grade teacher, and I'd like to connect with somebody in France, and we want to do something on food or something along those lines. And then you line up the classrooms, you write back and forth, you can do a video conference. There's any number of ways that you can go through that, or you can just go to their website, click on a location, a country, or you can look for a project search. This is the one that I think works the best because when we start talking about our culture, kids in our schools really don't have a good idea of what goes on in other countries. And this allows us, and they give you the whole guideline in the email. Here's what you want to do. Here's the questions you want to pose. Here's the ones you want to answer, learning about the daily lives and the culture of the students. And then this is an example of all of the standards and the guidelines that are built into it. And these are all links where it says learn more that'll take you to that. These are additional projects that you can do. The Way We Are, I think, is the best one. Another one that's pretty powerful, and I tied up 2 school districts when we did one on weather and natural disasters. We connected a school in Louisiana, in New Orleans, with a school in Oklahoma. And it was a great conversation they thought would only go on for a week. It ended up going on for about 3 months because the difference was, well, what's the hurricane all about versus the tornado? And they were both from school districts. They had lost half their building, so they had a lot of things in common. So it started out being this little simple project and a great connection piece that was on there. You can see the other ones, and they're adding more each year, put some different ones on there. There's the standards they're all connected to. And then this is the part that is left out of a lot of projects. There's no final activity. There's no authentic audience that they present to. Every one of these projects have a culminating activity that you can put on there. These are some shots of different connections that have been done around the world with schools and districts and places that I've worked with. Curiosity and imagination. We don't really teach it per se, but there is a way to infuse that and put into it. And this is a shot of my grandson. And when he was four years old, he was so curious, and he loved to play with stuff. So I said, I'm going to see what happens. So I went, there were some houses being built in our neighborhood, so I went and got a bunch of 2x4s, just cut them up, and I also am a NASCAR fan, and I have a lot of those cars. So he took all of those 2x4s, made a little NASCAR track to go around there, and had that, and then he went in the other room where he knows the Legos are, pulls the Legos out. He is in his own little world, just doing all these things, moving the cars around, and he was just curious about different things, what would happen. Then he went in the other bedroom and got the train track and put the train to go around it to see what would happen on there when he did it. So I put some things in here in different topics about the Civil War. How about taking a different perspective of taking on the individual perspective of someone that was in the Civil War? Maybe a black person that served or did some things. Maybe it was somebody that carried the flag. So there's several pieces in here that you can go through to do on those. Then I've got about 10. I'm going to go quickly, but they're all in here. You'll be able to download them. There are a lot of social studies things. One is called History Pin, where you take on the characteristics of an individual. Another one would be to play history. And you become curious. Well, what would happen if I did this? I wonder what would happen here. And in some cases, there is some failure that happens on it. This, you get to do the whole Jamestown adventure. And there's a whole series of scenarios. Every time you go there, there's 3 scenarios. You could do this, or this, or this. This works great in small groups of 2 or 3 where you start questioning. Well, what do you think would happen if we did this? Well, I don't think we should do that. I think we should do this. And then you have to come to a decision. If you need help, there's books there. And there's also diaries of people that have gone on that during that period of time. Flight to Freedom is another one. Ancient Greece. Social studies simulations. And again, don't panic. I see some of you madly trying to either write or take pictures. The presentation, I need about an hour after this, and I will upload it. So you will have that on there. You'll have every one of these slides. Actually, you'll have some of the extra ones that are on there. So adaptability is another piece that's on there, and this is where I bring in some of the gaming things. I'm going to show you some different games, and whatever your philosophy is on gaming in the classroom, I want to show you some very different ways and different things you can do. This company is 4 Czechoslovakian coders who have made games that are absolutely stunning on the graphics. For example, that is the game. Most adults are totally frustrated at this company. Do you have any idea why? Exactly. There are no instructions. That's part of the game. Our kids do fine because they're not afraid to start clicking and doing things. What happens here? I played this myself. There is a free part and there's a pay part. The free part, you get like 2 or 3 levels, and it just draws you in so that, it's like the free app kind of thing. And they have educational prices that are on there. There are about 9 different games that they have, and they keep adding more on it. And you wouldn't have any clue to do, but kids figure out pretty quick. As you move the mouse around, you see the pointer, and all of a sudden it changes to a hand. They know right away they should be clicking on that. And then a different scenario happens, and another problem comes up. And sometimes there's failure. Then you move to the next one as you go through it. This is one that was done for the BBC in some of the schools in the United Kingdom, and they tie in the English, math, and science. Whole series of things in there, and you have to do a series of events, and you have to figure out the logical progression in there to do that. And I did this with the group in Texas. I live in Austin, Texas now, and I worked with the middle school group on a Saturday, no less. They would not go home on Saturday. At 4 o'clock, kids, it's time to go. No, they're trying to get people to call their moms and dads not to come pick them up. And so we showed them where it was on the website. But that's how engaging it was on that. And it was like, I get one more level, I can do one more thing, I can get higher, I can get more points that's on there. So that's an example. Disney Infinity has been out for about 1.5 years. They just released version 2. And there's something in it. It's a game with little characters that are in the movies and in the parks. But what they did with version 2, version 1 had something called the toy box. You could create your own little world. You could take different parts of movies and things. But you had to stay in the same movie, like Toy Story. Version 2, what they did is they create anything you want. So you can take characters from Marvel and bring them in with Toy Story and do action sequences, do animations and things. You do need to buy the basic set that's about, I saw them for $59. They normally are $75. But with version 2, and what I went is I looked at some of the different things. You can find them on eBay. You can also now go to GameStop, and I've seen them for about half price, $35, $40. So you could buy a set for the classroom, and it's really interesting just letting kids go in that toy box and see what they do. Online learning games, again, this is just a couple of things I'm going to show you, links that are on here, and this is, Larry sent this to me, and he also has it on his website, and they're the best learning games that you could use in the classroom. They cover all content areas, different ways to do it, and I don't know why, he didn't do 2013, at least he didn't send it to me, but you could check on each one of those and see what he has in there. This is a section that I have in here, and I think it's really important. We don't really like to talk about failure, but what I'm proposing is that there are some ways that students can go through and try some things, and if it didn't work, to come back and do it again. And I put these together over the last year, and I'll show you an example of some of these as we go through that. There are some articles that are in here, and I know one of the keynotes was on game-based learning and some of the statistics they had, but they talk about how failure is hot. Harvard has an article on there. I want to give you some practical examples of things you can do. This is one that was a combination that was done with Rice University and crime scene investigation. And what it is, there are now 8 scenarios. This is just an old slide. And what you do is you first go through a training as a rookie. You have to learn all the tools you have to do the investigation. And through a series of events, you have to solve the crime. And as I said, there's now 8 of these. So you go into the case. This is how it starts, in that it goes through and you do this and you get a checklist. You do this and you have to keep, you cannot go on become an investigator until you complete the basic training. So you go through that. The links are on there for each one of those. All of these things that I'm showing you are free unless I tell you there's a cost involved. Smithsonian also has one. I would caution you on this, and I probably would send something home to parents. There are some very gruesome photos in this, very actual crime scene investigation photos, and there are some pictures that are very bloody. So you don't get the phone call from mom and dad saying, what are you doing showing these pictures? I think it's probably more appropriate middle school, high school. Middle school kids, why do they love this stuff? They really eat it up, right? Those of you who teach middle school, right? They like what? Blood and guts. But it's a takeoff, kind of more of an advanced version of the other one that's in there. Crime scene has a combination of a whole whodunit things. Every one of those have a direct link to it. And then this is a simulation that's done called Westward Ho. So in other words, you travel along the trail just like they did on the Oregon Trail. You make a series of decisions. Some are good, some are bad. Kind of the old Oregon Trail concept. Those of you that remember that. How many remember back to who was the original company that did Oregon Trail? Anybody remember? METC. It was text when it first started. That's all it was on the screen in the old Apple IIs. And then they started adding graphics. I was at Target the other day. I don't know what it is, Oregon Trail 22 or something like that that's on there. And it's on a DVD and it's got graphics and simulations on it. But this is the same thing, but just done a little bit differently that's on there. Brain Pop has 2 pieces. There's a free piece. There is a lot of things that are free. They also have a pay version that has more content, but on Brain Pop, on all content areas, they have a number of things that you can do in this same area. This is one they have on engineering and tech, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more in a few minutes when I do the STEM piece. You can search by standards. So if you're doing Common Core, they're just finishing that up. If you're doing by state technology standards or state standards in English language arts, you can look those things up and they'll give you all different types of things that you can put together on that. So we'll do a couple little quick pieces on here. This is a section on how to bring critical thinking and problem solving in. And again, it's not content core area specific, as you can do it in a lot of different classes. So let me show you a couple examples that are there. This book, unfortunately, Marty published 2 books. He was a gifted and talented teacher and has never published them again. They're out of print and you can't get them anymore. I have permission from him, if you're interested. I have a couple of PDFs that are made. Send me an email. Cards are up here. It's howie@frontier.net, or send me a tweet on Twitter at DiBlasi, and I can send you 2 of the sheets of he's given me permission to take out of. For example, these are the kind of things you do when the kids first come in. This has eliminated tardiness in a lot of schools. Because here's the question. Now the first one's not too bad, but you want your kids to get creative, and people start saying, where would you find leaves? In my yard, in the backyard, in the front yard, and then you're going around the room. We do this with teachers, and all of a sudden somebody says, in a table. And then you kind of look around. That's the stuff you're looking for. So give me another one, out of the box, very different, where you'd find leaves. Anybody? A book? Excellent. How about another one? One more. A table? Okay. Yeah. I'll help you. Think sports. Hockey. Toronto Maple Leafs. That's the kind of stuff you want your kids to start thinking about. Then this comes from halfway through the book, one that says pieces of toast. Okay, there's a couple real easy, and then it gets more difficult. And then you go to the windshield wiper. He's got 250 of these, and I've told him, Marty, you need to republish this book. There's so many good things that are in there. But I do have 2 of the PDFs. Here's some other things. Uses for Velcro, a balloon, give ways to put out a dragon's fire. I picked these up at Walmart. They, I think, are on version 4. In each one of these books, there are over 100 puzzles and games that you can do in a couple of minutes. Again, right in the class, do it at the beginning to get the kids come in there. It's a nice spiral bound so you can flip it back. And they're simple to very complex, and they're done by different levels that are in the book. This article was written about a year and a half ago. Clive Thompson did it in Wired magazine. And he called the article Crap Detection 101. And it was all about that kids don't know how to determine in a web page if it's true or false, or if it's what I call truth or trash. And he said, our schools are messing up. They're not teaching this. And he's partially right, because guess who it falls on in most cases? The librarian, the media specialist. You take care of that. I got to teach my class. And so here you have kids that are taking the top 3 lists on there. He proved it by putting the wrong information as the top 3. You know what the kids did. They took the top 3 and did the report on there, even though it was the wrong information, and assumed because it was on the internet that it was true. So he said it's the problem with that. So what I did is I put a series of pieces together of companies that I know about. Again, this is free. Smithsonian has a piece of lesson plans on different things like the Boston Massacre. Who fired the first shot? There's also some things that are in here, and they're listing what it goes through, asks a lot of questions, a lot of discussion. Another one on conspiracy theories in aerospace history. And the idea behind this is there are a number of them they do. That's a podcast they did about a year and a half ago. And what you do is you listen to the podcast. They give you the lesson plan. They give you all the handouts that you can go through each one of these. And these are the ones that are on there. Now, I don't know if you realize it or not, but there is a group of people out there who will prove to you that we never landed on the moon. Have you ever gone to those sites? Very interesting. Take your kids there. They will show you how it was faked. And they will show you the event that supposedly happened, and they will also show you how the photograph or the movie was faked. Now, Amelia Earhart, the conspiracy theories is she was kidnapped. She didn't disappear in the flight. So a lot of really inquiring questions that you go through. Well, what really did happen here? The one that I have the most fun with is the next one about UFOs. And it's all about what happened in Roswell, New Mexico. And I know you find this hard to believe, but the government lied to us about what actually happened there. And you know how that came out? Because of the Freedom Act of Information, a few years ago, that was released, and everyone went, wait a minute. We didn't get the whole full story here. You know, it was an air balloon and all the other things that you heard on. So Pearl Harbor, those are all listed. Those are excellent resources. It's a 1-class period exercise that you can go through to do that. And then here's some more sheets that are on here that you can do on each one of those. Sorry, I'm trying to watch my time here. I'm going to take a few minutes and talk about something that is kind of really changing over the last years. And it kind of leads from STEM into some other things. So I'm going to go through and show you some of these things and ask some questions, and then maybe get some a few minutes at the end if we have some time to actually do some discussions. So let me, with all those that are listed there, anybody doing any one of those in your school district? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to come back. I want to kind of take you through some of the things that are in here. And I'm going to start with the Genius Hour. friend of mine who came here the first time helped me with 3 workshops that we did. And I met him through ISTE 2 years ago, and he told me about Genius Hour. And I knew about it, but I hadn't talked to anybody that actually did it. He actually did it, kind of the principal says, don't bother me, just go do it. It was so effective that his students were asked to come to a board meeting, and the 2 girls that came to do the report came up with an idea and said, we want to design shoes. And he says, that's wonderful. I can't help you. And they said, well, how are we going to design the shoes? He says, I don't know, probably contact. I mean, he knew some of this stuff. It was the idea of throwing it back on the student. So they said, okay, well, where should we start? He said, start with a shoe company. Well, it just so happened there was a shoe company that was a distributor in the town. They made the connection. Over a period of 3 months, they designed the shoes, they did the drawings, they did sketches, they submitted them to the company sent them back, and they would nicely say, that's terrible, you redo this, do it again. They were high-heeled shoes, went on for 3 months. Then what happened is they finally got a good design, and the teacher said, what you need to do is try to see if you could find somebody that would manufacture your shoes. Contacted the shoe company, turns out there's a company in China. The girls didn't know it. The design was sent to a company in China. They made the shoes. They came back. The teacher presented them the shoes. You can imagine what those 2 little girls were like. They made my shoes. And they're looking at them. They went to the board meeting and told the board this. The board went crazy. When they opened the box, they saw the shoes too, and they stopped the board meeting. And they said, doing the official stuff, and they said, come up here, we want to talk to you. 25 minutes they had a discussion with those 2 little girls. They just couldn't believe that this actually happened in Ryan's classroom. Because of that, that whole district has 20% time every Friday in that district. So 2 little girls just changed everything in that district. So when you do the Genius Hour, it's passion-based learning. So somebody I saw 3 people raise a hand. Anyone want to share, like in 1 minute, maybe a project or something that you're doing at your school, your district? I saw 3 hands go up on that. Yes. Loud enough so we can hear it.
We are starting to make the space. So we started with projects that enhance the curriculum already. So we're kind of limited in space. So that's taking some of the power out of hand.
I'm going to get a couple of others in a minute. Somebody help me out. They gave me the starting time again. What time? Is this at 4 or 4:10? 4. Okay. I got to go real quick. Book recommendations. Let me just jump ahead. These are all references in here. I want to jump to what we did. We did a maker fair here. 20 projects. It was the STEM and STEAM I'm going to jump by because I think most of you know what they are, but the slides are in there of things that you can do, games. I want to get to this part. This is magnetic levitation. This comes from Calvin. You can actually make a magnetic car in STEM that hovers above the track and go around. It is about $79, but it's one of the best engaging pieces that you can do to get kids engrossed in STEM. That's a picture of what they look like, the little cars that you build. And there's a lot of engineering and things in it. My Disney Science website has a lot of these things that we're doing on there that you can do. It's now launched. I'm going to jump. This is the class that we did yesterday on designing a theme park attraction. These are the things, these are some pictures from yesterday that we did. They have 3 hours to design a theme park attraction. It's chaos in that room because they have to come up with the idea, the concept, they have to draw, they have to put a flow together, here's the story, put all those things together, and then present to an audience at the end to see who has the best. So these are just some shots that we had from that as they put it together. A group last year went so far as to make a little model. They went and stole tables from another room, put the tablecloth on, did a Vine video of the attraction. Obviously they won. I mean, they just blew the judges away. They said, I can't believe how resourceful you were to putting that piece together. So we talk about storyboarding, how Pixar does it. We do patent research in the project. They design models in the actual class, build some models, talk about animatronics. And if you would like, I will be happy to send that to you. It's a 300-page book that says 189 has been increased. If you'll just follow me on Twitter and follow me and say, I'd like the book, I will send you a link where you can download that. So the M in STEMs, I sent a tweet out, several people repeated that. What we're doing is we're including makerspace in with the STEM. And when you mix all those things together, the last S is the success piece. And it's kind of, we launched it here. We did a test run on Tuesday, and it was amazing. People said, what happened to the last 3 hours? There were 20 tables with junk on it, like that. These are some of the things they made. Geodesic domes. We didn't give them all the answers. We gave them a lot of problems, actually, that they had to solve. They had to build a clothespin car. They had to build a geodesic dome that supported books. And they were all projects that they could take back and use. So that'll be published. That handout is also on my Dr. Howie website, so you can download that if you want to on it. But here's a couple shots that were from there. They had to build a tower to the ceiling. Notice she's on a chair. I had to stop her, but she was ready to get on the table to run those cups up higher that were on there. These were some different things that also went on there. So it was a combination of makerspace together. All of these things we did in there, for $99, you could buy enough for 20 stations. Our idea was to make it very inexpensive to be able to do that, and that handout is also on the web page that's on there. So to finish up, I want to just do this part. It comes from something my wife shared with me, and it talks about, will you be the 10th person? And it talks about and says in the back of the book last chapter, for every 9 people who denounce innovation, only 1 will encourage it. For every 9 people who do things the way they've always been done, only 1 will wonder, is there a better way? For every 9 who stand in line of a front door and it's locked, only 1 will ever go around and check the back door. Our progress as a species rests squarely on the shoulders of that 10th person. The 9 are satisfied with things as they told are valuable, and person 10 determines for himself what has value. Statistics show that as you folks leave here, 1 in 10 will go back and actually do something. My challenge to you would be that we'd have 100%, because we'd see a major change going on. And I'm really seeing it at this conference. I've seen a lot of changes. I've been doing this for about 18 years, coming to this conference. And it's so encouraging to see the new things. So thank you very much for coming. There are cards up here. I'll stick around for a few minutes for questions.